All right, guys. So since the last video, I decided on a name for this channel. It's called Based Gardening. What I've got here today is I'm going to do a chili sauce, which is kind of like a sriracha, except you can tell from these chilies that it won't be like the red sriracha sauce, but it's basically kind of the same thing, and it involves fermentation. There wouldn't be anything to this except for the fact that you ferment it. If it wasn't for that, it would be like take these, do a little prep work, and put them in the blender, and you've got a sauce. You know, maybe add a little vinegar. Um, so let's first. Okay, so I was watching some videos about what other people do, and I was surprised to see that a lot of people just cut this whole part off and just lose that part of that chili. Okay, now for starters, I'm not cutting this open and losing any seeds or any of the spiciness or anything. I want all that, and so to don't just start cutting things off chilies that you think you don't want. Watch this. When you have a chili, all you gotta do is just pull this straight off, just like that. Okay. Now for this, see, that's what you end up with. You don't have to cut this off, and like, you know, just eliminate part of your chili. It's not necessary. Part might come off like that, like there. That just pulled a little bit of the top of the chili off. Fine, whatever. But you don't have to sacrifice your chili. So let's skip ahead to where I'm done pulling all these stems off. Oh, by the way, as I'm doing this, I'll just talk for another second while I'm pulling these off. I remembered something that I wanted to say, since this is the Base Gardening channel. I do have these chilies. I have the seeds, and they're going to be grown, but I did not grow these. These are not from my garden. My garden is, if you saw my first video, my garden is very much a beginning video. I'm just getting this all started, and I don't have a big old nice lovely harvest of these to use yet, but I will. It's coming. That's part of the plan, and you will see these that I grew in the future. Okay, now when I'm done with this, we'll come back. Okay, so I've got the first batch pretty much done over here. So I'm going to try to get all these into one blender, but we'll see what happens. So here's my first batch in the blender. So the next step is I'm just going to add a little bit of water, and all it should take is a little bit of water that's just like up to right about there. It should take very, very little. You're not filling this with water or anything like that. So I've got water. Yeah, I've got water up to about here. Now maybe I'll just add a splash more. And then I'm gonna get this into the blender and get back to this. All right, so you saw how full it was a second ago. Now it's down to less than half. So I'm gonna get the rest of these chilies in here, get it all blended up. There should be no more water added or anything, and then move on to the next phase. All right, guys, I've got the last of the chilies in there, and there's just a few ingredients left. I like things that are really, really garlicky. Now this just goes in there, and okay, this is sea salt. So I'm just gonna want to get in, oh, you know, about that much, just until it looks good. Yeah, that's good. Measure very carefully. Really worry about your measurements. Okay, so get in some sugar there. The sugar. That's good. Okay, so I've got this half a white onion here. We get this blended and move on to the next phase. All right, look at this. It's pure carnage in there. So I want to pull this off and show exactly the way I blended this up and talk about why. Because of course we know that, you know, blenders have speeds. So whoa, look at that. I'm gonna want to get that down in there as best as I can. Let's have a little taste. These chilies, by the way, they're extremely spicy. Not extremely, but they're pretty damn spicy. So of course you want to be careful with this. So I'm doing all one chili that I love. I just love this chili. The moment I had it, I just fell in love with it, and I was like, yes, it's the chili for me. If you like milder chilies, use milder chilies. If you want to have a mixture of flavors, throw in a little bit of spicy chili, and throw in a bunch of, medium to milder chili, and get more of a balance. Do whatever you want. This is just a technique. Okay, guys, so I've just got some loose plastic on here. The plastic's just on here loosely to keep critters out. You don't want anything crawling in there. And you don't want to get it too tight because air has to escape. I want to put this in a dark place, so I put it under my stairs, and it's a clean place, but it's dark and a little bit cooler there than the rest of the house, being like a dark part under the stairs. And it's going to stay here for about 2 or 3 days, and I'm occasionally, once a day or something like that. It's not a big deal. Going to come along, just give it a bit of a stir. No big deal. And then at the end, there's a final product that we get back to. Take care. Until then. All right, guys. In a most unfortunate digital accident, I had the fermenting vessel that was at the end of the last video after the 3 days, and I lost that video. It was several minutes long, but what I did was I brought it out and I stirred it, and you could see all the bubbles coming up and everything. But at the end of the day, it's the fact that it fermented is the most important part. Showing it at the end is not. But anyway, what I'm going to do is these are the 3 products that happen at the end. So I'm going to show you these, and then it's going to cut to forming these 3 products, and then I'm going to do a taste test. Okay, so basically, imagine that I've got the fermenting vessel, which was the one large one. I'm stirring it, and you can see all the bubbles coming up. And then I tell you that I'm going to strain it, which leaves behind this. Okay, this is what's left over when you strain it all out. And this is the stuff that you don't throw away. It's really good, and anything that you want to spice up and operate, it's kind of like a little bit like putting in a curry paste. This is what's strained out, and this had some vinegar added and cooked down to be a little bit more saucy. Okay, and then this is a bit where I took, imagine rehydrating this, except pre-dehydrating it, if you will, and just cooking this down a little bit until it formed a thick sauce, and not even adding any vinegar. And so this is just simply fermented, but it is cooked down, so it's not fermenting anymore. Okay, so cut to the other parts where I'm showing a little bit about how to imagine all this being back together, how to make these 3 products, and then we'll come back for a taste test. Okay, guys, just taking a quick second here to show you how I strain this. This is a fine mesh strainer, and you just move this around like this. You just kind of flip it over itself until everything gets out, and there's our soon-to-be hot sauce down there waiting on us. You just do it like that. Just keep going until this is pretty dry, because I like to put it back into things like soups, where of course it rehydrates. So I want this dry. Okay, get back later. All right, guys. So I've had this cooking a little while, and you can kind of see this consistency here. It looks a little bit thick. It doesn't just look like I'm stirring water. You can tell that it looks thicker, and when it cools down, it will thicken up some more, especially since you refrigerate this. All right, guys, here is number two that I did not strain, and I decided to do another thing. You can tell that that's very sauce-like now. I mean, I can do the little thumb thing on the back, the line, but it's a sauce. Okay, it's taste test time. Uh, I'll give this one a little taste, but I mean, this is kind of like your curry paste. You know, it's not the most important part. The most important part is the chunky one that didn't have any vinegar added, but it did get cooked down, and the one that's like kind of a mimic of your hot sauce that you would buy at the store, except you can see there's a ton of it, and this is like, you know, $1.50 or whatever. And then I have a little bit left here of the last hot sauce that I made, and I just have this tiny little bit left. And these were made from different chilies, but I want to do a little bit of a taste test, because on this one I said you're just supposed to, you know, add this much vinegar, and I sort of did it like a recipe. And on this one I added to taste, and even though these are made from two different chilies, which will obviously affect the taste, I can still like gauge, make a comparison, you know, based on the way I added the vinegar and stuff like that. So first, let's just get a tiny little taste. Oh, I've even got some water here to be a pro and rinse my palate. So first, let's get a little taste test here of this product. A lot of things going on there very similar. Let's have a little taste of this. Yeah, it's still really spicy. The thing that I find fascinating about this process is that when you ferment something, like any sugars that are there get eaten. That's what fermenting does. It eats up sugar, and so it naturally leaves behind a sour taste. So these have their own sourness, as if I added vinegar, even though I didn't, because it was fermented, which is really cool. They're like naturally sour now. So let's rinse our palate. Okay, next up, I'll compare these two, and then I'll compare these two. Okay, so let's get a comparison going here. All right, so this is the chunky one. It'll have they're both cooked down. This one has not had vinegar added, and of course it's chunky, so it'll have like little bits in it that'll give a very different mouthfeel. So let's have a taste here. Wow. I tell you what, you don't have to be able to do anything special in the kitchen to get this. This is so good, but it's thanks to fermentation, not me. Fermentation is an amazing thing. This is really, really nice. It's got its own natural sourness and vinegar because of fermentation. I've got some salt in there. I add a little bit of salt to taste. In terms of mouthfeel, there is a bit of grittiness because it's unfiltered, or unstrained, I should say. Okay, so this one will be like perfectly smooth. But I mean, excellent product. I mean, honestly, I do think that I like this one better, but I have to admit to not liking the mouthfeel as much. So let's rinse palate. Let's get this. Okay, this is a lot of hot sauce. It's amazing. Okay, there we go. Look at that. Oops, over here. Look at how, you know, you can see that it's liquidy, but it's not so liquidy that it's just, you know, instantly runny. It's like, you know, Tabasco Crystal Texas Pete style hot sauce. Like, it has that watery element, but it's definitely a hot sauce. Let's have a taste. That's really good too. But you know what? I'm going to tell you something. Maybe I would like this one better than this one if I had not added any vinegar, maybe. Or maybe it's just that I do like this one better. This one is more complex. I'm going to give it that. It's more complex, but it's not necessarily a better complex. I mean, having a group of any mixed berries is more complex than having a single berry, but the single berry might be better, if you know what I mean. That's mixed palate. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They're all good. All right, so here's my my old one. Give that a little shake. Here's my old one, and there's barely any of it left, just enough for a taste test, really. This one's more watery. I didn't get it cooked down quite as much, and I think you might be able to kind of see that. Yeah, the vinegar is too strong in it. It's more peppery. It's a different spice. Maybe equally spicy, maybe not quite as much punch. This is the least of the three, or of the two. Well, yeah, three. This is the least, and I think the primary reason is that I treated adding the vinegar like a measurement, when what I should have done was I should have added the taste like I did here. This one is better because I added until I like the taste. Considering how good this is, I had to wait on this to strain out of this and keep working it and working it and working it until I ended up with this, and I ended up with this. And considering how good this is, this can go from blender to pan to reduce until you have the right consistency, add salt to taste, and you're done. And considering how good this is, I do not know that it's worth this extra work. Even though it is nice to have these two products used with different things, I think that the one product is not a bad way to go either. So that's hot sauce. Thanks for watching, and Base Gardening out.